Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everyone here for our City of Hawthorne fiscal year 2023-2024 budget workshop. We have great information to share with the public tonight. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm pleased to present the fiscal year budget for 23-24, proposed budget. City of Hawthorne, along with other local cities, face extreme challenges during the economic environment due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But the City of Hawthorne made massive strides during the last 2 to 3 years by maintaining a balanced budget. We have recreated our blueprint that has allowed us and staff to complete our necessary services to the community. With more than 2 years under our belt, working as essential workers in emergency response mode to prevent the spread of COVID-19, we've also provided excellent service to our community. We have seen the fruits of our hard labor, and we're ready to present to the public our budget for 23-24. With the leadership of our council and a sound finance department has made it achievable. This year's proposed budget will focus on sustainability and economic development. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to our Finance Director, Felice Lopez.
Good evening, City Manager, City staff, our residents, and those of you who are watching at home. I'm Felice Lopez, Director of Finance, and I'm here to give you a summary of the full budget for the city. And then I'll bring up each department head to present their work plans for the fiscal year 23-24. And I'd like to thank everyone who contributed to complete this budget. We are very appreciative of all your help. So our current budget will have a surplus of $1.5 million. This is the first time that we've had this type of surplus since I've been with the city for 19 years. And so we are very pleased to present our expenditure budget. It is proposed at $96,998,025. And we've got a city council and city treasurer budget estimated at $356,568. There's an increase from the prior year of $116,595. This was $90,000 in salary and benefits for city council and stipends and training. For our non-departmental budget, we have a budget estimate of $10,963,000. That's an increase of $268,000, and this would be for special payouts for retirees, emergency operations, American Rescue Plan Act projects, and property management. For Measure HH, we have a budget of $4.5 million. It's an increase of $589,000. This includes an increase of $300,000 for 911 operations and the balance in gang unit and school resource officer budgets. For the fire services, we have a budget of $15 million for 23-24. That's an increase of $1.1 million for that contract. For the city clerk, we have an estimate of $248,000. There was a decrease of $263,000 for election costs, which increase every other year with the elections. For city manager, we have a budget of $963,000. It's an increase of $144,000, and this includes contract services for employee development and rebranding and special projects. For city attorney, we have a budget of $1.2 million. It's a decrease of $71,000, and this is a reduction in contract services due to hiring a full-time city attorney. In finance, we have a budget of $1.1 million. It's an increase of $34,000, and this is in part-time salaries. For business license, we have a budget of $945,000. This is an increase of $5,000 in training. For human resources, we have a budget of $892,000. $2,000. It's a decrease of $125,000, and this decrease is in salaries due to department restructuring. For the police department, we have a budget of $42.3 million. It's an increase of $4.4 million. And the increases are in, it's $1.2 million in full-time and part-time salaries, $1 million increase in benefits, $1.1 million increase in overtime. This overtime includes $600,000 for Inglewood events, which is fully reimbursable from the city of Inglewood, and $550,000 for training and incident overtime. We have $550,000 increase in vehicle maintenance, $550,000 increases in utilities, contract services, machinery and equipment, uniforms, community relations, and K-9 operations. For IT, or information services, we have a budget of $3.6 million. It's an increase of $563,000. And the increases are $184,000 for salary and benefits for a new GIS position, and in contract services, computer services and machinery and equipment, and public safety information services. For Public Works, we have a budget of almost $3.5 million. It's an increase of $118,000. This increase is in contract services, utilities, and vehicle maintenance. For planning, we have a budget of $2,889,000. It's an increase of $460,000. This is for contract services, for general plan and zoning updates, and a salary increase due to restructuring the department. For building and safety, we have a budget of $1.5 million. It's a reduction of $106,000, and this decrease is due to salaries for department restructuring. And for community services and cable, we have a budget of $5.9 million. It's an increase of $315,000, and this is an increase in part-time salaries and overtime due to additional special events, increasing in commissioner stipends, park maintenance, building maintenance, utilities, vehicle maintenance, and cable social media expenditures. The overall increase for the general fund budget is 9%, and it's a $7.5 million increase. We also show an increase in grants and restricted funds of $25.6 million for a total increase in the citywide budget for 23-24 of $33,174,000. Okay, this next page just shows a list of the major grant and restricted fund increases, which comprise that $25 million. Asset forfeiture is increasing by $2 million. Insurance reserve, which is workers' comp and liability insurance, is increasing by $3.7 million. MTA funds are increasing by $3.3 million combined. Street projects are increasing by $3.6 million. Planning grants are increasing by $2 million. Community service grants are increasing by $4.5 million. Development impact projects by $1.9 million. Community revitalization project of $500,000. And CDBG and home programs are increasing by a combined $2.8 million. And looking at the budgeted expenditures in graph form, we can see that the police budget makes up 44% of the city's general fund. Fire services makes up 16% of the general fund expenditures. Information technology services is 4%. Public works, building and safety, community services, and planning make up 14%. Legislative and administrative makes up 6%, and those departments are city council, treasurer, city clerk, finance, licensing, human resources, and city attorney. And non-departmental makes up 16% of that $96.1 million. Looking at this by category, personnel is 50% of our budget. Retiree health and employee relations is 4% of that budget. Contract services makes up 22%, and just a reminder that 15 million of that is the fire contract. Maintenance and operations is 14 million for 15% of the budget. Interdepartmental charges is 6% of the budget. Operating transfers are 3% of our budget, and capital outlay is 0.5% of our budget. Moving on to the revenues. We are estimating the revenues for fiscal year 23-24 to be $97,616,200. That's an increase of 10% for an overall dollar amount of $8.8 million. Taxes are estimated to be $70 million, which is a 9% increase of $5.5 million. The increases are mainly in the Bradley Burns sales tax, Measure HH tax, TOT, and business license tax. Licenses and permits are estimated to be $2.8 million. It's a 33% increase of $705,000. Cannabis is our first time receiving that revenue. We are estimating $1.1 million, but that increase is offset by decreases in construction permits, code fees, and street curb permits. Fines and forfeitures is estimated at $3.2 million. It's a 23% increase at $600,000, and these are for moving citations and parking tickets. Revenue from use of money is interest on investment. There's a 67% increase. We're budgeting $500,000, so the increase is $200,000. Intergovernmental state, which is VLF and state mandated costs, is budgeted at $13.6 million. It's a 6% increase of $821,000, and this entire increase is in VLF or DMV fees. Intergovernmental county, which is park grants, we show a decrease of $100,000, so that's a 63% decrease. Service charges show an increase of 37%. We're budgeting about $4 million. That's a $1.1 million increase. $600,000 of that is for the Inglewood event reimbursements, billboard fees, facility rental, plan check, and special police services, which is school resource officer reimbursements. Other revenue, which is contribution from water, contribution from refuse, and RCCIT services, we see a slight decrease of $10,000 for an estimate of $2 million. Program contributions remain the same for Prop A, which is for transit police at $1 million, and for the airship at $300,000. So again, the total increase is $8.8 million, which is a 10% increase. Grants and restricted funds, we show an increase of $19 million for a total overall revenue increase of $27.8 million for fiscal year 23-24. And showing this in graph form, we can see that the taxes make up the majority of the city revenues at 72%. Licenses and permits are at 3%. Fines and forfeitures, again, are at 3%. The interest, which is revenues from use of money, is 1%. Intergovernmental state is 14%. The county parks programs are at 0.5%. Service charges are 4%, and miscellaneous revenue is at 2%. Contributions, program contributions are at 1%. And this concludes my presentation. I will bring up each of the department heads. Our first department head to come up will be our city manager, Mr. Von Norris, and he will summarize council, non-departmental, city manager, and city treasurer.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Excellent presentation. What I'm going to go over, as Felice mentioned, is policy and management departments, which include council, treasurer, non-departmental, and city manager. Changes from the prior year, we conducted citywide training program. We conducted a new orientation for new elected officials. We implemented the American Rescue Act funding. We established the Economic Development Ad Hoc Committee. So those are the changes from the past year. Fiscal year 23-24 accomplishments was we increased our homeless services. Staff completed evaluations for staff currently working in Hawthorne. monthly updates to the city council, implemented a cannabis ordinance. We had several capital projects, including Holly Park, Holly Glen, Jim Thorpe, Ramona Park, Community Garden, Dog Park. We had our Centennial Celebration, which was a 4-day event. My office assisted overseeing the virtual City Hall project. We secured multiple real estate assets. We increased our community engagement in the city. And lastly, we adopted a 2023 economic development strategy. I'm going to list a few of our work plans for this fiscal year, 23-24. Reestablish a city emergency management program, negotiate MOUs for all the bargaining groups, work to develop Hawthorne Boulevard, expand our customer service training. We have established a Business Connect for a business-friendly city. We'll establish a transportation program from Hawthorne to SoFi for football games. And lastly, a rebranding program. So my office, in conjunction with other offices, will work with City Council to produce these items I just spoke about. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Felice.
Okay, now we'd like to bring up our city clerk, Miss Dana Hunter.
Thank you so much, Felice. I want to talk about the changes from the prior year. The tablet implementation is something that we weren't doing last year, but now we are. We have tablets, so it's eliminating binders and papers. The elections funds went from $200,000 to $1,500 because it's a non-election year. That will increase later on. The training budget went from $9,000 to $10,500. Travel, conferences, and meetings went from $2,500 to $3,000. I want to talk a little bit about some accomplishments. One of the great accomplishments, the tablet implementation is one of our biggest things that we're very proud of, saving the city a lot of money that way. We're also very proud of the fact that all of our clerks now are members of the CCAC and the IIMC, which are clerk associations. Developed, and we are adhering to the document retention schedule, so we are eliminating paper in our office as well. We acquired 7 interns through South Bay Workforce Investment Board at no cost to the city. And we develop cross-departmental relationships through intern help, through finance, legal, building safety, city manager's office. Our interns are all over the building. For the 2023-2024 work plans, we would like to eliminate 1 deputy clerk position, hire and or promote a senior deputy clerk, and hire a part-time assistant. We have a notary inside of the office prepared to add line items to bring in revenue. I'm a notary, so we are now offering notary services, and that will bring in some revenue. Train interns from the South Bay Workforce Investment Board to support the city's efforts, working towards the digitization of papers, elimination of papers inside the clerk's office, to have council meetings and special council meeting minutes up to date online, work with the city manager and council to develop a strategy to best support the safety of the community and staff members. In collaboration with the LA County Clerk's Office, support the 2024 elections. We're looking to develop PSAs, outreach for the upcoming voting season. Work with local community leaders to address any obstacles to voting. And we are going to invest in some customer service training for all clerks. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you, the city clerk.
All right, we'd like to bring up our planning director, Mr. Greg McLean.
Thank you. Good evening. We have a few changes this year, mostly in personnel. We lost a senior planner, and but we did hire 2 code enforcement officers full-time. So the code enforcement division is now functioning a lot smoother than it was at the beginning of the year. Accomplishments, we have a couple of really big accomplishments. We got our housing element approved, and that is actually quite a huge accomplishment because very, very few cities in Southern California achieved that. And we got ours done in time, so we have spared the city from some of the quite egregious impacts or penalties that the state could impose on us. We completed the Economic Development Strategic Plan, and that was adopted by the council recently. We have new ordinances to regulate cannabis businesses, which my department was very involved. And in code enforcement, we've implemented weekend coverage for at least 50 weekends a year. So a lot of the activity that has been missed over the past years because we weren't working on weekends is now being caught. We have a very ambitious work plan for the year, starting with a couple of quick zone changes that will help the city position itself to be more competitive and more flexible and responsive for the needs of economic development and development in general. Following that, we'll be initiating a general plan update process. The goal is to do a comprehensive general plan update. The general plan has 9 elements. 3 of them are fresh and 6 of them are 30 years old. So they need to be done again. If possible, we'd like to follow that immediately with comprehensive zoning code overhaul. The zoning code, unfortunately, has been pieced together over many, many years, decades, and is quite honestly holding us back in many ways, not allowing us to accomplish some of the economic development goals that we seek to achieve. We will also be heavily involved in the implementation of the strategic plan that was adopted recently. A couple other things. Staff training is going to be a high priority. We've neglected this for a long time, and we have really good staff, and it's important that we train them so that we're not training them for other cities, essentially. We got to train them to function better with what's the word I'm looking for, customer service and, you know, in their core functions. We also will be looking to add staff to planning because we're looking to ensure that all positions have a pathway for growth, and that's been a problem. We have low positions and high positions for a long time, and there's no mobility within the department, so we do lose employees occasionally for that reason. We will also be preparing some of our employees for supervisory and management roles, and we will also be working toward improving communications and cooperation with the other departments. Additionally, we're going to be implementing more reimbursement accounts, which means that developers will be paying the actual costs of the services we provide, as opposed to paying through fees, which is kind of an inexact way of recouping our costs. We will be tracking short-term rentals this year, starting this year. That's something that we have not been able to do until recently. We will also, we're also going to be putting a lot of focus on a more robust and constructive public input process. A lot of what happens in planning is intended to be done out in the open and very opaquely, and let me rephrase that, transparently. And we try very hard, but we think that we could try better, and we could do even better. So we're going to put a lot of focus on that. It would be as transparent as possible, and let everybody know what we're doing and why. And then the last item is we're going to be collecting and reporting key performance indicators. That's data on how we're performing in numerous different ways so that we can track our progress and report our progress to the public and to the council, and to use that data to further improve our services. That's all I have.
Greg, real quick question. You know how we were a little bit restrictive with our the bed and breakfasts that we had, right?
The short-term rentals, you mean?
Yeah, the short-term rentals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the bed and breakfast, I guess.
Yeah.
So what impact do they bring, money-wise, to the city?
Not
Even
very much.
Even with the limited constraints that we have.
Yeah, not very much, because we don't have a very good way of tracking them. So it's almost a voluntary system for them to sign up with us, register, pay their, license fees and everything. But we are looking at getting help to track all of the short-term rentals in the city, and then reach out to them in a very nice and polite way and say, hey, there's an ordinance that says you have to be registered and you have to get a license and you have to pay your transit occupancy tax. And that's one of the goals that I had identified as to get started this year.
So we need to actually implement that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
I will give you my summary of the Finance Department. The Finance Department manages the fiscal operations of the city and maintains financial records in conformance with general accepted accounting principles in compliance with state and federal laws. And as someone said to us recently, we are the gatekeepers of the city funds. The department's primary functions include financial planning, budgeting, revenue administration, accounting, reporting, grant management, purchasing, and payroll. The accomplishments for the Finance Department in 22-23 are that we completed all local, state, and federal compliance audits. Staff and myself regularly attend the UCLA Anderson quarterly economic updates as well as other webinars discussing current economic conditions. And Bank of the West recently increased the interest rate for the city's money market account to 3.5% after our city treasurer and myself made an inquiry into other options for investments. The work plans for 23-24, we want to work with the Revenue and AP Manager to develop and implement a plan to convert vendor payments to ACH. Vendors have inquired about this for many years. Along with the HR Director, we want to complete the process to review the 457 plan options offered to employees. This has been in the works for about 2 years, and we're excited to finally be close to completing it. Finance is working with GovInvest to create a forecasting module that will help project out more accurate revenue and expenditure scenarios for the next 5 to 10 years. Our departments, as well as our stakeholders, will have a more transparent and visual decision support tool to expedite planning and budgeting. We want to work with the city manager to provide fraud awareness training to finance staff and schedule an information session for all departments as time permits. We want to complete the development related user fee study and cost allocation plan. And finally, we want to take a page from our police department and after hearing it reinforced during our staff trainings, finance will have staff cross-train in all duties so that there's always someone knowledgeable in all financial processes. Do you have any questions? Nothing. Okay. We'd like to bring up now Ms. Chantel Dixon for the Business Licensing and AP Department.
Good evening to the mayor, city manager, staff, and everyone watching. My name is Chantel Dixon, and I'm the acting revenue and accounts payable manager. I'm here to represent business license and the accounts payable department. I'd like to state the changes made to the department, which improved our workflow. We've cross-trained another staff member on issuing film permits. So we have 2 people that are able to do that. And that actually expands what we can do and how fast we can do it. We also had improved our business license process. We've streamlined it and made it more efficient. We've also moved from depositing checks to electronic deposits, so we can actually deposit our checks faster, and the bank will get that. We've also changed our invoicing procedures so that it'll eliminate possible double payments, any features that the auditors look at that'll actually help that process. So our accomplishments for the business license department, we made the transition from Monday.com to the business license web licensing system. We've also updated the business licensing website. We've achieved a faster turnaround time for issuing business licensing tax certificates during renewal season. We've worked with IT to save paper by not printing unnecessary copies during check runs. And we've cleared the backup for the business license approvals attributed to the COVID pandemic. Our future work plans for the fiscal year 23-24, we plan to improve turnaround time for business licensing issuances for new businesses. We'll also work in conjunction with code enforcement to bring awareness to unlicensed businesses. We're training part-time workers with the South Bay Web using customer service training modules. We'll also release FAQs for business licensing. Also, we'll promote HBC, the Hawthorne Business Connect. We want to expand on relevant and available information to attract more business to the website. And we also plan to work, as Felice mentioned earlier, we plan to work with her to develop and implement a plan to convert all vendor payments to ACH. ACH is already a part of the monthly check run, but we plan to expand it possibly throughout the city vendor payments. And that's all for my presentation.
All right, at this time, we'd like to bring up our Human Resources Director, Ms. Erica Lambton.
Good evening, Mayor. How are you? Human Resources is working to create a cultural environment in which employees are engaged in their employee life cycle with the city. Some of our accomplishments for the 22-23 fiscal year are: we coordinated a health fair that included multiple vendors from CalPERS and all of the vendors that we work with to assist employees in their benefits and their ancillary benefits, such as legal aid or legal shield and others. We work with a software application called FormStack, and we have customized that to make the online applying process simpler and to provide better customer service. We have worked with the department heads profusely to create a number of recruitments, approximately 76 recruitments for 22-23. We held a number of civil service meetings, and as a result of that, we were able to establish about 40 eligibility lists. Some of the changes from the prior year, where we have created an employee recognition system, and we call that the Good Neighbor Award. We are now co-chairs with the police department for the Veterans Affairs Commission. We have updated the Veterans Affairs Commission website. We have restructured some of our goals to align with the city manager's message and vision to improve culture, customer service, and communication. And we have continually updating the HR website to show correct and accurate information. Our work plans for next fiscal year are to train HR staff to become familiar with the new laws that have changed from 23 and that are upcoming in 24. We're going to offer trainings to invest in employees citywide to facilitate the city manager's message of change, culture, customer service, and communication. We are going to coordinate staff appreciation days. We will continue to develop this evaluation process. We're going to continue to partner with the departments to conduct professional recruitments and selection processes to hire the most qualified and best fit candidates for the city's needs. In conjunction with Felice and the finance department, we're going to complete the 457 plan options that are offered to the employees. And we are now working with GovInvest to create a labor costing and benchmarking module that will help us in the projections and comparisons for us during negotiations. And we are going to be preparing for negotiations with all of our bargaining units. That concludes Human Resources.
Real quick question.
Yeah?
How many retirees do we have lined up? I guess how could you best describe the number of retirees versus recruitments that we've had to backfill those positions?
It's hard to project retirements this year. Off the top of my head, 12. That's a very rough number. The only people who give us advance notice on retirements are the police department. And that's because there's a process for them that they have to submit different paperwork to go through. But it's kind of hard. Most of the recruitments are budget-approved positions from last year, or positions that were not filled from previous years. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll bring up our police chief, Chief Gary Tomatani.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here today to report for the police department's accomplishments and for the current fiscal year and what our work plans are for the upcoming fiscal year. So starting with what we've accomplished so far in the current fiscal year, we were able to successfully work with the city council, the city manager's office, human resources, and our police officers association to establish and gain approval for a successful employee recruitment incentive program. So this is a little bit of a different take than what some of our competitors are doing in the South Bay area, where a new employee is rewarded with a cash award for becoming a city employee. We are incentivizing our city staff at the police department to go out and do our recruiting for us. And this has had some immediate positive results, with that being directly tied to the successful hiring of 4 police officer candidates that we might have missed out on minus this program. We continue to work with human resources in constant collaboration to fulfill internal promotional processes and both sworn and professional staff unfilled positions. We were able to enter into a new agreement with the Hawthorne School District for the provision of school resource officer services that is on a reimbursed basis. We entered into an agreement with the City of Inglewood for the provision of our medical director services, and that agreement is for 3 years, reimbursed to the City of Hawthorne each of those 3 years. And we provided contract services for the City of Inglewood for their events at SoFi Stadium and the Forum as needed, which has also proven to be a very, very valuable retention tool for our current sworn staff. Moving forward into the upcoming fiscal year 2023-2024, our work plans are very, very extensive. We intend to evaluate and negotiate an extension to a current agreement we have in place with the City of El Segundo and the El Segundo Police Department for the continuous provision of jail supplemental services. So the El Segundo Police Department is currently not operating a jail of their own, and all of their arrestees are housed and booked at the Hawthorne Police Department for a fee. The department will continue to monitor the opening of cannabis-related businesses within the city limits, establish appropriate protocols to address any community concerns, and maintain the safety and security of all the surrounding neighborhoods. The next one is kind of a hybrid with what we've already accomplished and what we intend to do. Through our IT department, our info services department, we have established video surveillance and security measures at the Bridge of Hope transitional housing shelter. And that's a very, very big priority for us, especially moving forward as that shelter will fill up. We want to make sure that the people staying there are safe and secure, and we want to make sure that the surrounding neighborhood is satisfied with that. We'll continue to focus on our medical director position as a regional resource, and we have already entered into initial conversations with 2 additional law enforcement agencies in the South Bay that potentially will sign an agreement for us for those services to be reimbursed to the City of Hawthorne as well. And part of that medical director program and our overall TACMed program, we want to begin in the upcoming fiscal year offering first aid CPR training for all city staff and the families of city staff who would be interested in gaining that information and that training. And we want to do that on a quarterly basis. These next few items are in direct relation to our information systems department. We're going to continue to build out the city's online presence for accessing services, which means including consolidation of existing systems in the hopes of streamlining things and saving a little bit of money, and modernization of legacy systems. We intend to replace all City Hall computer workstations with virtual desktop interface units. We intend to replace the city council member workstations with upgraded tablets to include new displays, keyboards, and mice, so that during the course of a regular council meeting, everything will be a little bit easier to follow for our elected officials. The Info Systems Department will provide optimal training on the Prime.gov agenda management solution, which should also streamline our city council meetings. And we want to update all city workstations to a more current version of the Windows operating system so that some of the new software that's out there, we can actually access it at its full potential. We're always looking for ways to improve and keep our workforce engaged. And we are entering into a partnership with a federal law enforcement partner on collaborative career development opportunities for our department professional staff members. So we have an opportunity to send 1 or 2 of our professional staff members to work at a FBI task force to learn crime analysis, and then they'll be able to bring that skill set back to the department where we will be putting them to good use. We will increase the amount of in-service training in our department staff in these very, very important areas: implicit bias and racial profiling, customer service, leadership, communication, de-escalation tactics, and tactical medicine and first aid. We would like to add 1 officer from our existing complement to increase our bicycle patrol team from 2 officers to 3. We've had an amazing return on our investment from the community with our bicycle patrol team, so we want to add 1 more officer to that team. In partnership with the Community Services Department, we intend to increase the number of movies in the park events during the summer season from last year's 3 events to we're shooting for 5 this time. And we want to begin an evaluation and feasibility study on updating the existing video camera systems in all of our marked patrol units. The existing systems are well, they've surpassed end of life, and there is a much more effective and efficient technology that's available to us. So we want to do that a feasibility study. We will continue to build out a technologically based foundation for any future timed parking or permit parking projects with a focus on efficiency of enforcement operations if the council so desires. And the last one that's just a constant uphill battle for us, we have to continue to fight as hard as we can every single day to find qualified applicants to fill all of our sworn and professional staff vacancies within the department. And then I know I'm going over, there are 3 capital improvement project requests that I am asking for support on. One is an upgrade to, not an upgrade, but we need to install an uninterruptible power supply unit within the station that will protect all of our critical infrastructure in the police department facility in the case of a power outage in the area. And the second one would be a conduit and electrical wiring upgrade. We do have an existing emergency generator, but it only provides power to designated portions of our station. And we want to exist the wiring in the station facility so that the emergency generator will power the entirety of the station. There is 1 personnel position that we will be requesting consideration for the addition of, and that would be for a geographic information system analyst that will assist all city departments, not just the police department, with the creation and maintenance of city maps, zoning maps, and our 911 dispatch system. And that is it for the police department. Thank you.
Chief, do you think all the services that we have, you said the medical services, with our, our medical doctor that we have, like the airborne surveillance programs and other things that other cities seem to depend on us for, do you think we're receiving fair compensation for reimbursement of those services from those municipalities that surround us?
I do think that at this time we are very, very competitive with what the cost of those programs are for our own staff. So we're looking at what the value is for our own staff here in the city of Hawthorne and the Hawthorne Police Department, and we're projecting that same cost out to those surrounding agencies. So I think that I'm very comfortable saying that, yeah, we're not giving away services for free.
Yeah, that's my concern because are we the only ones that have the airborne surveillance program right now in the South Bay, or
we're the only local South Bay agency that has an air program, and we're also the only local law enforcement agency that has a medical director.
So, I mean, kudos to your group, to the police department for that. But that's always been a concern of mine and the rest of my council member colleagues, if they're paying their fair share. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Now we'd like to bring up our cable supervisor, Mr. Eric Chavez.
Good evening, Mayor and city staff and residents watching from home. Eric Chavez, Supervisor, Cable TV. And I just want to start off with changes from our prior year, the addition of part-time staff members without raising our part-time budget. We are reorganizing our department by changing and adding the day-to-day tasks of our full-time employees, which currently we just have 2 at the moment. Started working alongside the Hawthorne Police Department to produce short segments displaying life-saving events, creating good PR for our good police department that we have. We are adding a photographer and a graphics part-time employee to help produce more social media content. This will greatly benefit the city by getting information out sooner and creating more content, hopefully get media out on a daily basis and get the city of Hawthorne more recognition. For the fiscal year 2022-2023 accomplishments, took pictures of our entire city staff to add to our email account so everyone could see how everyone, looks like, who they're talking to. We will be updating the pictures soon. Completed our first full year working on Hawthorne City View, which is the Hawthorne digital newsletter. Pretty much everything we shoot and broadcast on television, we're making it to a digital newsletter, so anyone in the community or anyone pretty much could see that one on their computer at whenever time they want. Continue to produce our bi-weekly programming like City News and Council Recap, along with creating the short videos for HPD, which have a huge hit on social media. We expanded the city's social media platforms. As we move into our new year, we would expand the communication with our residents of Hawthorne. Keep up with technological advancements to keep broadcasting our meetings in multiple platforms. With our new training budget that we will be receiving, we will send staff members to conferences and see what's out there to check out what new technology we could be using. We will continue promoting Hawthorne businesses, ribbon cuttings, events through digital images on our Crenshaw and Hawthorne Boulevard digital signage that we have and social media. We will also be working alongside our new Business Connect program for promoting. And for fiscal year 23-24 work plans, we're going to work with staff to continue to bring programming to our Hawthorne residents and employees through video, social media, and newsletters. We would like to do more content on social media platforms, both for the city and our HCTV channel. Reorganize our entire department to be more high-tech, organized, and efficient. Boosting content on social media, like upcoming city-sponsored events to get the word out to people who don't follow our pages at this time. Start doing more standalone programs on special events with a change of style on the editing that we do. Try to get it out sooner rather than later. Put some music in the background and get it out hopefully by that same day. And lastly, we would like to change the identity of our department from cable TV to HCTV, Hawthorne Community Television. We are more than just a cable channel. Throughout the years, that's the way our department started, just being on cable TV, but now doing social media, newsletters, everyone's expanding to doing more. So just like all the Spectrum News and whatnot, they're all expanding to doing broadband and different things. So same thing with us. And that's it for cable TV. Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to bring up Mr. Akbar Faroki for Public Works and Building and Safety.
Hi, good evening, City Manager, City Attorney, and our resident. This year, one of my main goals to help the staff develop their skill and become well-rounded. This will become any investment in the future success of the department. With that saying, I have encouraged one of our associate engineer, Selena Acuna, to speak on our acknowledgement and planning for next year.
Thank you, Akbar. Good evening, City Manager, City Attorney, and attendees. It's a pleasure to be here today. I am pleased to report the accomplishments of our Public Works Department in the 2022-23 fiscal year. Our team has been working really hard towards reaching the goals set by the City Council. Public Works oversees the functions of the engineering, airport, equipment, environmental, and street maintenance divisions. With the assistance from our HR department, we revised 13 staff descriptions to align their job responsibilities with new funding requirements. We implemented the Civic 311 app, which has helped streamline city services. The illegal dumping program continued to be successful in preventing environmental hazards and maintaining our city clean. The Parking T program has made it easier for residents to find parking in high-density areas, and the citywide project should be completed by the end of this year. This year, we also constructed 6 capital improvement projects that have improved the overall visual of our city. We entered into 9 agreements with various agencies, including SpaceX and the removal of the Hyperloop, which increased parking along Jack Northrop. We also assisted with 12 city events, installed speed humps in various locations, and submitted about 40 annual reports for the continuation of funding. Overall, our team has been working very hard on our environmental programs. We have gone 100% green power as the default energy source and continued our organic program of SB 1383, ensuring that our city remains environmentally sustainable. We would like to also update you on our progress to install EV chargers in our city. Our city has been working very hard to secure funding for these projects, and we have submitted 5 grant applications that are currently under review. By the end of the month, we will have 6 EV chargers installed at our city facilities. In addition, staff has secured several competitive grants from federal, state, and local authorities. With the support from our city manager, this year alone, we were awarded $16.3 million in funding, which totals $43 million of grant funding that we're responsible for. Currently, over 95% of the department funding comes from grants and restricted funds, and less than 5% comes from the general fund. This means that our department depends heavily on external funding for our projects. We are currently under design for 10 capital improvement projects. Now, as I've reviewed our main accomplishments, I'll move forward with our new work plans and priorities for this upcoming fiscal year. This year, we plan to recruit 3 new positions. We would like to hire 1 part-time airport maintenance worker, 1 engineering technician, and 1 mechanic assistant. This will help the department distribute the workload more evenly, improve our task performance, and continue the great work. Additionally, we plan to continue to administer our current programs, oversee the grants and audits that we're responsible for, coordinate events, develop RFPs for service providers, and continue training staff in Public Works to ensure compliance and maintain the quality of our work. Our goal in the department is to stay ahead of the curve, especially in our field with all the new laws coming in. Implementing the new permit system and Civic 311 app aided our department this past year in utilizing technology to improve communication among city departments and the community. So we will continue with those efforts as well. In this upcoming year, the Public Works Department is committed to driving sustainability projects and position itself as a leader in the South Bay region. To achieve these goals, we have been collaborating with different stakeholders and government agencies and organizations. We are actively working on grants for infrastructure development and working towards installing EV chargers throughout the city. We would also like to begin purchasing zero-emission vehicles for our fleet and perform electrical upgrades in our city facilities to achieve long-term energy savings and reduce the greenhouse gases in our city. Lastly, we plan to continue the design of 10 new capital improvement projects and begin the construction for 8 of those projects. This work includes several arterial streets, local streets, alleys, and even an airport project. Lastly, we plan to continue the design for, this is our operational plans for the next fiscal year. Our team members have been working diligently to ensure we meet our objectives and surpass our targets. Thank you for your continued support and trust in our team.
I'm going to introduce Paul Hu to talk about the building safety.
Good evening, city manager, city attorney, and attendees. My name is Paul Wu. I'm the associate plan check engineer with Building and Safety. It's my pleasure to be here today. I'm reviewing some accomplishments for our department. Over the last year, our department has made significant changes in our customer service and operations. We have hired and trained staff, with one engineer receiving his professional engineer license. Additionally, a part-time inspector was hired to assist with business license inspection that was previously overlooked, resulting in the department falling behind. However, the department is now up to date with all inspections and has seen a 48-hour turnaround time. We have also implemented a new online system that has helped us go paperless, making our job more efficient and decreasing the wait times. As you know, our city is growing, and this has resulted in an increase in building and construction projects. In preparation of this growth, we plan to fill up a vacant and promote a part-time to a full-time position to prevent delays in plan approvals and inspections. Our department adopts the 2022 California Code Standard and 2023 City Codes. The department has also prioritized the review of solar projects. This year so far, the department has received more than 200 solar permit applications and issued more than 100 solar permits. This suggests that the community is very interested in solar energy, and that the department efforts to streamline the permitting process are effective. Lastly, our department has been managing our budget efficiently over the past year, resulting in an revenue of over $1 million with only $550,000 in expenditures. This shows that our department has been able to maintain a balanced budget. If we hire two positions mentioned, we will help contribute to our department's efficiency and increase our revenue. Overall, our department has been successful in our efforts, which have resulted in a more timely and effective process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to bring up our city attorney, Mr. Robert Kim.
Good evening, Vaughn. Hello to all. I just want to first describe the city attorney's office. It consists of mainly the civil and the prosecution side, along with insurance and municipal law. The biggest change that we expect in terms of fiscal changes this upcoming fiscal year will be that we're going to increase this is called self-retention, but it's basically a deductible for our insurance. We're going to be self-insured for up to $2 million if we had been at $500,000. And the reason why we did that is because the premiums for liability insurance have skyrocketed. So we were expecting to pay, and we budgeted in the last fiscal year up to $4 million for liability insurance, but by increasing our self-retention and our deductible by being self-insured up to $2 million per incident, we are cutting down the annual premium by half. So we're budgeting about $1.9 million for the premium for liability insurance. which also would mean probably that we'll have to increase the in-house litigation team by one additional attorney. That probably will ask for that at the mid-year budget adjustment, but not as of yet. Much of the things that the city attorneys do is something that we can't go into detail at a public hearing, especially when it comes to civil litigation matters and criminal prosecution matters. So in a nutshell, I could just briefly describe our team, which is that when it comes to civil lawsuits, it's mainly defense. We provide very aggressive defense of liability type of cases, and we aggressively pursue where we have to pursue in criminal prosecution and where we have to initiate a legal action. One example is in this past fiscal year, we took a case to trial in which we got a defense verdict. And also our criminal prosecution team that is made up of primarily, used to be 2 full-time prosecutor and 1 contract attorney, when we've been handling that with all contract attorneys. But the staffing will change a little bit in the future, but we're handling criminal prosecution. It's a misdemeanor prosecution, which is bulk of the arrests made by the Hawthorne Police Department, California Highway Patrol, and sometimes LA County Sheriff's Department, and even sometimes code enforcement. I think one of the biggest concern for the city is the big elephant in the room, which is the Hawthorne Mall. I can't get into details of it, but there are 5 pending cases in LA County Superior Court, and these cases are comprised of some defense and some where we're pursuing as a plaintiff. And just want to let the citizens be aware that the city attorney's office is vigorously pursuing these matters, and we're in talks right now, and we hope that this coming fiscal year there's some type of resolution where the city can move along. Also, in terms of this coming fiscal year, we expect a lot of developments to happen. One is primarily in the affordable housing area, because as Mr. McLean has explained, we have housing element that's been certified, and the state is pressuring all the cities to take action to create more housing. One of the housing that the city had planned and that had approved did not come through because of the developer, and that's the Veterans Housing Project, and that's going to be redone, and we're going to propose to City Council of increasing the density of the Corderi project into more units so that we could meet some of the housing elements and the pressure from the state. In terms of certain, we also handle all the drafting of the ordinance, reviewing all the resolutions and whatnot, and going through all the public records requests, and we have a lot of public records requests for all different departments. But one of the ordinance that I think that will have a significant impact in terms of the revenue for the future of the city is a cannabis ordinance. We drafted an ordinance that's transparent and equitable process, and hopefully that this will not lead to any controversies. I think now we're taking steps where we're ready to, almost there to issue license as long as they go through some of the zoning issues and planning issues. I think that's about all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'd like to bring up our Community Services Manager, Ms. Kawana Bui.
Good evening. Good evening, City Manager and City Attorney. I will be presenting the accomplishment for the Community Services Department. We increased homeless services, assisted with preparation of staff training. We completed renovation at Holly Glen, Jim Thorpe Park with Measure A funding. We secured $34,000 grant from the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation to hire a coordinator to assist with the Dream Team program. We opened Homeless Services Office, installed pickleball courts at Holly Glen, Ramona, and also the Betty Ainsworth Sports Center. We opened the Bridge of Hope Tiny Homes. We received $5 million from Assemblywoman Tina McKinner's office to renovate the community center community center, and also $500,000 to renovate the senior center. We formed a Business Connect Committee, and we built a new dog park. Our work plan for 2024 would be to renovate Zella Davis Park, continue to seek capital improvement projects, and also analyze rates and fees for the Community Services Department. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. And last but not least, our Housing Director, Ms. Kimberly Mack.
Good evening, City Manager, City Attorney, City residents, fellow staff. So as the Director of Housing, I'm responsible for about $23.2 million. And that's broken down between the Housing Choice Voucher Program, the Emergency Housing Voucher Program at about $11.9 million, the CDBG and home programs, including CDBG CV and the home ARP funding at about $11 million, and the city properties at about $250,000. A little bit about our department this year. We did suffer some things. We went through some losses with staff members, which kind of gave us a challenge this year. But one of the benefits of that is it came in line with timing with leadership training from our city manager. And what I was able to do was to take that leadership training and to communicate that to our staff. We learned how to communicate better, we learned teamwork, and we learned how to change the culture of our department where we became one. And we actually got more work processed with less people. So the timing of those trainings and the collaboration with the individuals that were there who are ready and willing to work created the best atmosphere we could possibly have, and it has allowed us to be successful up until this point. Some of the accomplishments we had for this year is that we closed the Emergency Rental Assistance Grant Program, paying landlords out over $535,000. We also assisted with the launch of the Bridge of Hope Community Housing Program, going through the planning process, the building process, and very soon the housing process, which will happen on Monday. We also launched or assisted with the housing business, the Hawthorne Business Connect program, which will help to form relationships between the business community and the local government here. We also launched the community, the commercial facade program, which we are building and will incorporate more in the upcoming year. And with HR's help, we actually filled all of our vacant positions. So while it was a crisis in the beginning, it was completely solved by today, as of today. So I'm so grateful for their hard work and dedication in working with us, which is true to the teamwork we have with employees here. So our customer service has increased because we've also partnered with the South Bay WIB, and we've hired several employees there. And we've assisted with renters and landlords by offering regular in-person and virtual fair housing walk-in clinics and community workshops. So whereas normally we would direct them to the website or call this number, they can actually come in to speak to someone and get their questions answered in person, and it has made a great difference. We've also focused on advertising our home rehabilitation program, which allows homeowners of single-family residences to do improvements to their homes, roofs, windows, whatever it is. And that has become very popular recently, and so we are thriving with that program. We've also updated our resources page on our website so that tenants and landlords can use it as a form of self-help. Rather than calling in, they're able to actually go there and get the information that they need. And then we've also launched a paperless inspection module. So keeping true with the rest of the city who is going paperless, we also are in line with that. Some of the changes from the prior year, the city properties have seen an increase in the maintenance request just because of the age of the properties. And we also will need to respond to tenant requests in a more efficient timely manner. And so I'm proposing that we increase the overtime expense for the city properties by about $4,500 so that the property housing supervisor can be compensated as he is on call 24/7. We are also requesting to add 2 line items for reserve accounts for the city properties, which has not been there throughout the history of the properties. And these reserve accounts are an annual replacement reserve and an annual unit turn reserve. So when stoves go out, we'll have the money to replace those. When units need to be flipped because of move-outs, we'll have the money to do that in a more efficient manner. We've also saved, of course, on salaries due to the different vacancies of positions. And we have one major goal of increasing the city property rents since they have not been increased in over a decade by approximately 3% per year going forward. Some of our 23-24 work plans include the CDBG program, which is to just administer that, continue to administer the city-approved programs. We received $1.2 million this year. The CDBG CV programs, there's still a little bit of funding there that we're working through. And the home program was awarded $635,000 this year, and staff will work with the city manager for a project that has already been slated for $2.8 million for home requisition, acquisition, rehabilitation, and resale. The Home ARP award was $1.8 million that we received. We are using it towards the Bridge of Hope Community Housing Program, but we will also be working to go to the next phase of that and incorporate more service providers to use that fund as it is allocated. Also, the Housing Choice Voucher Program, our goal is to lease up between 60 and 80 families from our wait list. We currently just pulled about 32 families recently, so that's a big plus for us. It's always hard. It's easy to say that we can pull 30 families. Out of those 30 families, maybe 5 will lease up. So it's a back and forth and a very administratively burdensome process. We will continue to work diligently with owners and renters to get the vouchers housed and to acquire more owners throughout the city in various areas. Our EHV program is moving right along. We're working diligently to lease up the remaining 17 vouchers we have for that program. Our deadline for that is September of 2023. We want to make sure that none of those vouchers go back to HUD. We're online for that. And with the city-owned properties, of course, establish the reserve accounts for flips and capital improvements, and to move forward with the city property renovations, which are desperately needed. That is our goal for this time. I'm sure more will be added to the plate, and we welcome all that comes. Thank you.
City Manager, that concludes our presentation for today.
Thank you to all the staff and all the residents listening. This was a great job by our staff. They allocated much time out of their daily schedules to put this together. We will have this information posted online for future review. Felice, our finance director, has prepared our budget adoption for June 13th. Is that correct? June 13th. Once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for attending, and have a good evening. Thank you.